Welcome back to Inspiring Builds. I'm Dan, and on the previous video I covered the best value drill press, and today I'm going to show you how to make a DIY mobile drill press stand for it. The frame is strong, easily supporting the 85-pound drill press as it's holding 200 pounds here, and is a simple beginner-friendly design constructed with 3 2x4s and a $12 sheet of 2x2 3/4 inch plywood for the top. It has plenty of drawers for storage. This drill press stand is on swivel casters that locks and is mobile, which is key for a small shop. I always trim the end of 2x4s to ensure the lumber is square and I have a clean cut. If you're new here, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any of these tutorials. This is a miter saw tip to maximize efficiency. When doing repetitive cuts like building a drill press stand, I like to use a stop block to cut down on time and ensure all of my cuts come out the same length. Over the years, I've found it to be super accurate to clamp down a scrap of wood and make a shallow kerf. Take the end of the tape inserting it into the kerf and measure the distance of your cut, in this example 16 inches. Once your stop block is set at 16 inches, clamp down the stop block. If you don't have a stop block, any scrap piece of wood will do. I set the angle at 45 degrees and make a small cutaway. This digital angle finder is super handy for drill presses and table saws, and I'll provide a link in the description below. The cutaway will help prevent sawdust from building up, causing inaccurate cuts. I like to use the entire workbench top and avoided installing a fence or a T-track. I'm not going to show every cut, but will quickly cut the 4 16-inch sections using the stop block. This proven method did not fail and came out at 16 inches on the nose, with all 4 cuts coming out exactly the same. For joinery, I used a combo of wood glue and pocket hole screws. You can use a cheap $40 Kreg jig, but if you can swing a bit more, this 720 Pro is worth it, as time is money. I used a Kreg provided clamp to clamp the jig to the workbench and attached a dust collection attachment to the shop vac. Simply set the drill depth stop gauge at 1.5 inches for the width of the 2x4s. My favorite part about this jig is the automatic clamping system. This part makes it worth the extra $100 to me all day. I'll provide the link to this jig in the description below for you as well. I sped this up, but this jig made 32 pocket holes in no time flat with the auto clamp system and did excellent with dust collection. Let me know in the comments below what Kreg jig or pocket hole system you prefer. I'm also curious, if you have a 720 Pro, what your thoughts are on mounting it to a board. Once complete, there will be pocket holes for the 4 boards for the front and rear of the frame and all 4 legs. After all the pocket holes are drilled, I wanted to cut off the rounded sides on the 2x4s. I set my table saw at 3 1/4 inches and removed one of the rounded sides, and then flipped it over and set the saw at 3 inches to remove the other rounded side. This isn't necessary, but I think it provides a much cleaner look. I used Titebond wood glue and pocket hole screws to assemble the top frame. After inserting the pocket hole screws, ensure the frame is square. When doing assembly projects, as you've seen in previous videos, I use a magnetic wristband. To make it easy for you, I'll provide a link in the description to all of the tools used in this video. I load up my screws on the strong magnets, and it makes assembly much faster and easier. After driving in the pocket hole screws, check again for square. Repeat the same process for the bottom frame. Next, glue up the legs to the bottom of the frame and assemble the same way with the pocket holes facing the inside. Take your time drilling in the pocket hole screws. I find it easier to drill in both screws before fully torquing down one all the way. This helps the legs stay nice and square to the frame. Complete the same process for all 4 legs. Before fastening the legs to the top of the frame, I insert all of the pocket hole screws to get them started. You can see here where the magnetic wristband really comes in handy. Glue up the top of the legs before attaching the top frame. It feels good when the project is starting to come together and the frame is perfectly level. I designed the dimensions of the frame to fit and repurposed 2 nightstands that I removed the legs and added black hardware. Before moving on, I wanted to ensure all 4 drawers fit. I also wanted to strength test the frame at this point. The drill press weighs 85 pounds and the frame easily supported my 200-pound weight test. I added wood filler to the front of the 2 legs just in case they showed at all after the drawers were installed. The rear inner legs would never be seen. Now on to most people's least favorite part with the sanding that I will make short. If you don't have an orbital sander, get one as they remove material a whole lot faster, making sanding a breeze. I used 120 grit to sand down the frame. Next, install wheels. These are polyurethane and still 4-inch wheels that swivel and have a locking brake. I used 1.5-inch screws I had on hand along with a washer. Check that the screws are a good depth without being too long for the frame. I measured 1.5 inches back on the frame before installing the wheels and then pre-drilled each hole. A shop vac makes quick cleanup and then secure the wheels with the screws and washer. Back to the wristband to knock out the rest of the wheels. I highly recommend making as many tools mobile as possible in the shop, especially for smaller workshops. These wheels do the trick as they roll excellent, swivel easily, and lock into place. Before sanding, I used a shop vac and wiped down the frame, then tested to ensure there was no dust. I grabbed a pair of gloves and a foam applicator to apply the stain, and went with the same Varathane black gloss poly and stain combo I used for my workbenches. With me applying the stain using a heavy hand, I put down a plastic sheet for drips and taped off the wheels with painter's tape. Along with trying to match the workbenches, I also was a fan of the black frame and orange wheels to match the new drill press. For the top, I used 3/4-inch plywood. This was very inexpensive as well, with costing less than $12 and just needs a bit of work to make it look good. You can see from the factory it has quite a bit of tear out that is common with crosscuts. To avoid that, ensure you have the right blade, and painter's tape helps along with not rushing the cut. You can see the difference here with a nice clean cut. The top came out spot on 16 inches, just like the 16-inch cuts for the sides of the frame to match the depth of the drill press. Clamps are super helpful to align the top. I use one clamp in one corner and another in the opposite. These screws are my go-to. Not only do they countersink themselves, but they have a fast bite and a star drive to avoid stripping. It's important to stay hydrated, and this water is a great drink to recover after a DIY project to provide a boost of hydration, vitamins and protein with 0 sugar. I use a pencil to mark lines across the workpiece, and once they're all gone, it lets me know it's sanded evenly. To finish the top of the drill press cart, I used shellac and again used a foam applicator. For best results, I used multiple coats instead of putting on a couple super thick coats, and I used 220 grit sandpaper to sand in between. This is coat number 2. While the second coat is drying, I stain the sides of the top black to match the frame. This is coat number 3. The last and final coat is number 4. Once the shellac dries, put the drill press on the top of the stand and evenly space it on each side. Use as large of a bolt as possible that will fit the holes on the drill press stand. I used a M12 bolt that was 3 inches long and pre-drilled the holes with a 3/8 inch drill bit. Insert a washer on each side of the bolt and secure the nut with a 15mm socket. This may look like one unit, but it's 2 individual nightstands I'm repurposing and want to join them together first. I removed the top 2 drawers and used 1-inch screws I had on hand and drove in one in each corner. Remove the rest of the drawers to make the weight easier to work with and slide in the frame of the drawers. Secure the bottom with the same 1-inch screws into the frame of the drill press stand. This was part 2 of a 3-part series where I will be working on multiple drill press upgrades to any drill press on the last part of the series that you won't want to miss. I really appreciate you watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when I release new videos.